On Wednesday afternoon, the Indiana Fever welcomed back Caitlin Clark after a 5-game absence due to a left groin injury. Her return came against the Golden State Valkyries at Gainbridge Fieldhouse, marking her first action since June 26. The final score was 80-61 in favor of the Valkyries, representing one of the Fever's lowest-scoring games of the season. This game provided several talking points from a basketball analysis perspective. Clark's performance after the layoff, Indiana's offensive adjustments with her return, Golden State's defensive approach, and the overall team dynamics on both sides. Today we'll break down what actually happened on the court, examine the key statistical performances, and analyze the strategic decisions that shaped this outcome. Let's dive into a comprehensive breakdown of this matchup and what it tells us about both teams moving forward. The game began with Indiana showing positive energy, particularly from Clark, who recorded 2 or 3 deflections on the opening defensive possession. The Fever started strong offensively, taking an early lead and looking comfortable in their execution during the opening minutes. However, the game's momentum shifted significantly after the first quarter. Indiana established a 9-point lead early, but struggled to maintain that advantage as Golden State began to find their rhythm offensively and apply more consistent defensive pressure. The halftime score stood at 41-32 in favor of Golden State, indicating a substantial swing from Indiana's early control. This represented a pattern we'd see throughout the game. Periods of solid play from both teams, but with Golden State maintaining better consistency across longer stretches. From a coaching perspective, both teams made adjustments throughout the first half. Indiana experimented with different lineup combinations, while Golden State settled into defensive schemes that would prove effective in limiting Indiana's offensive flow. If you're interested in detailed basketball analysis like this, hit the like button and let's continue breaking down what made this game so instructive from a tactical standpoint. One of the most notable aspects of this game was Indiana's lineup decisions. Head coach Stephanie White chose to start both Caitlin Clark and Ari McDonald in the backcourt, with Lexi Hull moving to a bench role. This represented a departure from previous rotations and provided insight to the team's thinking about ball handling responsibilities. White explained this decision in her post-game comments, noting that she liked having 2 primary ball handlers on the floor, particularly against teams that apply aggressive defensive pressure. The strategy aimed to reduce the burden on Clark of having to handle the ball under pressure for the entire 94 feet of the court. From a tactical standpoint, this approach has both potential benefits and challenges. Having multiple ball handlers can create more offensive versatility and reduce turnovers against pressure defense. However, it also requires careful spacing and clear role definition to avoid overlapping responsibilities. The implementation showed mixed results during the game. There were moments where the dual point guard look created good ball movement and opened up scoring opportunities. However, there were also possessions where the roles seemed unclear, leading to some offensive stagnation. Clark played 25 minutes in her return, which White noted was somewhat shorter than her usual allotment, but appropriate given her recent absence and the game situation as it developed. Looking at Clark's individual performance, the numbers show 10 points on 4 of 12 shooting, along with 6 assists and 5 rebounds in 25 minutes of action. These statistics provide a starting point for analysis, but the context around them offers more insight into her game. Clark's shot selection included a mix of attempts, some from her preferred deep range, others from mid-range situations, and a few closer to the basket. Her shooting percentage reflected both the rust that might be expected after a 5-game absence and the defensive attention she received from Golden State. Defensively, Clark showed good instincts early in the game, as evidenced by those opening possession deflections. White noted that her main concern wasn't Clark's offensive rhythm returning, but rather managing the defensive demands and lateral movement required after the injury layoff. From a ball handling perspective, Clark had moments where she looked comfortable running the offense and others where the timing seemed slightly off with her teammates. This is typically expected when a key player returns from an extended absence and needs to re-establish on-court chemistry. The assist total of 6 indicates that Clark was actively looking to involve teammates, even when her own shot wasn't falling consistently. This represents an important aspect of her overall impact beyond just scoring numbers. The Valkyries implemented a defensive strategy that proved quite effective throughout the game. They focused on applying consistent pressure on Indiana's ball handlers while maintaining good help defense principles. Veronica Burton led Golden State's scoring with 21 points while also contributing 8 rebounds and 6 assists. Her performance exemplified how the Valkyries approached this game. multiple players contributing across various statistical categories rather than relying on one dominant individual performance. Kayla Thornton added 18 points and was particularly effective from three-point range, hitting 4 of her attempts from beyond the arc. This outside shooting helped stretch Indiana's defense and created additional space for Golden State's offensive sets. From a team defense perspective, the Valkyries were successful in limiting Indiana's transition opportunities. They focused on getting back in transition and making the Fever execute in half-court situations, where Golden State felt they could better control the pace and flow. The defensive rebounding was also a key factor, as Golden State limited Indiana's second-chance opportunities throughout much of the game. This helped them maintain possession advantages during crucial stretches. Indiana's offensive performance in this game highlighted both strengths and areas for improvement. The team shot 30.9% from the field overall and 6 of 27 from three-point range, numbers that made it difficult to keep pace with Golden State's scoring. The Fever's ball movement showed inconsistency throughout the game. There were possessions where the ball moved fluidly and created good scoring opportunities, but also stretches where the offense appeared more stagnant with limited player movement. Clark's integration back into the offensive system was a work in progress during this game. Some possessions featured her in familiar roles, running pick-and-roll sets or creating off the dribble, while others had her in more off-ball situations that required different timing and chemistry with teammates. Golden State's offense, by contrast, found good rhythm through balanced contributions. They shot 37.1% from the field, which, while not exceptional, was efficient enough given their defensive success in limiting Indiana's scoring opportunities. The pace of the game favored Golden State, as they were able to control tempo and avoid the faster-paced style that typically benefits Indiana's offensive system. Several specific moments shaped this game's outcome. After Indiana's early lead, Golden State responded with a sustained run that gave them control heading into halftime. The Fever made a push in the third quarter, cutting the deficit to 55-50 and generating some momentum. However, Golden State answered with timely scoring, including a three-pointer from Burton that helped stem Indiana's comeback attempt. This sequence illustrated how both teams handled momentum swings throughout the contest. The fourth quarter saw the game get away from Indiana as fatigue and shooting struggles compounded. Golden State extended their lead during this period, effectively putting the game out of reach. From a coaching perspective, both teams made adjustments throughout the game. White experimented with different rotations and tried various combinations to find effective lineups. Golden State's coaching staff made counter adjustments that helped maintain their advantage. The foul situation also played a role, with both teams dealing with different players picking up fouls that affected rotation decisions. This is always a factor in game management, particularly when teams are still establishing their optimal lineups. In her post-game comments, White addressed several aspects of the performance. She noted disappointment with what she characterized as a lack of competitive fire, particularly regarding attention to detail and execution of the game plan. White specifically mentioned issues with discipline and energy levels, pointing to examples like allowing multiple offensive rebounds after defensive stops. These details often determine close games and were areas where she felt the team needed improvement. Clark's post-game perspective focused on execution and energy. She acknowledged that the team struggled with scouting report implementation and that Golden State played with more consistent energy throughout the game. From an analytical standpoint, this game provided data points about how both teams approach different situations. For Indiana, it highlighted areas where they need more consistency when integrating Clark back into full action. For Golden State, it demonstrated their ability to execute game plans against high-profile opponents. The shooting disparities were significant factors, but both coaches emphasized that effort and execution issues were equally important in determining the outcome. This game serves as a learning opportunity for both teams as they continue their respective seasons. For Indiana, the challenge is optimizing their approach with Clark's return while maintaining the progress they made during her absence. The lineup experimentation will likely continue as the coaching staff evaluates what combinations work best in different game situations. Having multiple ball handlers provides options, but requires continued work on spacing and role clarity. For Golden State, this performance reinforces their identity as a team that can compete through balanced contributions and solid defensive principles. Their ability to execute game plans against marquee opponents will be important as they establish themselves in the league. Clark's individual performance, while not spectacular statistically, showed positive signs in several areas. Her court vision remained sharp, her defensive instincts looked good early, and her willingness to involve teammates was evident throughout. The broader context for Indiana involves building consistency in their approach while maximizing their talent. Games like this provide valuable film study opportunities and help identify specific areas for improvement. Both teams will use this game as preparation for their upcoming matchups, with lessons learned applicable to future strategic decisions and player development goals. The WNBA season continues to provide compelling basketball and strategic innovation as teams adapt to different challenges throughout their schedules. What aspects of this game analysis did you find most interesting? Share your thoughts in the comments below and subscribe for more detailed basketball breakdowns and tactical analysis.